Ladies and gentlemen, before starting today's show, we just wanted to address something. As you guys will notice in the show, Trevor Johnson is not here with Chase and I today, one of the original co-hosts of the show. The reason being is that his brother, Will Johnson, recently passed away, and we just wanted to pay respects to just let you guys all know, so no incorrect ideas are formed about what happened, and we just hope the best for Trevor in this time of struggle, and we also wanted to pray for him and for his family. So everybody listening, if you're religious, if you're not, I want to take this time to say a little prayer for him and his family. Lord Jesus Christ, thank you, God, for this day you give Chase and I, God. Thank you, God, for all the blessings you put in our life, God, and just for everything that we have. Thank you for this platform that we have to be able to hopefully make people's days a little bit better. And this time, God, I ask you, God, to please continue to be with Trevor and his family, Lord Jesus Christ, in this time of difficulty. I ask, God, for your powerful hand and for your spirit, God, to be with them, God, and to give them strength, peace, and just for your love to be with them in this time, Lord Jesus Christ. You understand all things. You know why all things happen. We don't, God, but you are God, and I know that you do everything, God, just with a plan, and may your blessings be with them, may your spirit be with them, and may you be with them in this time of need and struggle. Thank you, Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. I also wanted to read just a Bible verse that God brought to me after hearing the news. It's John chapter 11, verses 25 to 26. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Will Johnson, I know that even though he is not with us here today, he has been resurrected and he lives in glory with God in heaven, and he is looking down on us, smiling because he's in a better place with the Lord. So that's all we wanted to say, and we all hope you truly enjoy the episode. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Everybody needs help at some point.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that, you can't do it. It just means it'll be easier for you to get through it with a little bit of help and support.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live for the first time in a long time on Stuck In Adolescence show with you today. Myself here with
Chase Runsman, back in the cut.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time. I'm not going to lie. It's been a long time since I said that phrase. Welcome back to Stuck In Adolescence. Chase,
it's true. Mm-hmm.
To all the people listening,
Yep.
Let's give a little update, man. How are you doing? Honestly,
right.
How is it going in your life? What have you been up to these past couple months? Because even though most people in Sheboygan probably know that you've been at school and whatnot, we got a couple listeners worldwide, the deal. Not gonna care, bro. According to the statistics, we got people in France, like one guy.
So we got to start speaking.
We got
French.
someone in
we
Asia,
like
one person. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
So just give them an update.
Shout out to those people if they're listening.
1,000,000%. Shout out to you.
I go to The Ohio State University. I finished finals on Tuesday. We did after Thanksgiving. I got back and we didn't go back after Thanksgiving. Like Christmas break and Thanksgiving break were combined. So I've been chilling, doing online school. Just wrapped up first semester. I'm excited to be done and just relax, hang with the family, stack some paper, hopefully get a job.
Yes, sir.
Donate some plasma, get back into the grind. So that's what I've been doing. I'm still doing biochemistry. It was
What is that, man? Is that
it was definitely a lot harder than I expected it to be, but I quickly learned, and this goes for anybody who's looking to go to college or is just starting anything new, I guess. Sometimes you have to learn what not to do in order to, my first couple of weeks, I learned what not to do. I was okay, I got my results back from my first test or whatever, and I was
was
all right,
it tough?
man.
Was it tough?
It was tough.
Expose
it was bad.
yourself.
It was like a D plus on the. I was all right. I was something's got to change. I just I just didn't know I didn't know the type of effort it took.
Well, and ladies and gentlemen, Chase, he was a top student at North. What were you? You were the treasurer for National Art Society. So he was a good student. You know what I'm saying? So adapting. That's what I'm trying to emphasize.
That's a big thing. Adapting.
That even though you were a great student in high school, you needed to change habits. You needed to adapt for college.
Without a doubt. How you been though? How's everything going at lacrosse?
I'm not going to lacrosse, Chase.
What?
Thought you were my friend. No, I'm playing. No, I actually decided to stay local this year. That's the thing. Yeah, I was going to be going to UW lacrosse.
Oh, my God.
Super excited. A month before, I was like, dude, with everything going on with COVID,
right.
I don't want to pay 3 times the amount of money for the same classes.
I got you, yeah.
So right now I'm just going to LTC, taken by Jet Eds.
Which LTC, don't get it wrong, is like seriously one of the best technical schools in the United States.
In the United States of America.
It's
Like there's no debate. One of the best schools, technical schools in the United States of America. Great school, great teachers, taken by Gen Eds, planning on transferring out.
Beautiful.
And then hopefully things with COVID clear up. You know what I'm saying? So I can actually go to college and actually enjoy it a little bit. And dude, get my money's worth, man. You know what I'm saying?
I like it. I like
it's
it
money,
a lot.
bro. Money is money.
Money is money, right?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the main stuff. Today is a super exciting episode because we have our first guest on the show. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous still, but we'll get over that as we keep going. Ladies and gentlemen, now welcoming the first guest on Stuck In Adolescence. Today's guest is an expert in helping people deal with their emotions, and she is coming here to help Chase and I with our most intimate and personal issues. After many years of working in sales and marketing, she wanted to transition into her true passion, which is helping people in the form of counseling and therapy. Her specialties include helping people deal with grief, life transitions, and addiction, but she is able to help with all different types of difficulties. She has a Master's of Science in Education with an emphasis on professional counseling from Concordia University. Shout out to all those who go there. And she is a state of Wisconsin licensed practicing counselor in training. Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming our first guest on Stuck in Adolescence, Amanda Fellerer. Round of applause.
Thank you.
Hello.
You know,
So, Amanda?
Yes.
Mrs. Fellerer, either one?
Amanda's fine.
Awesome. All right.
Sweet. Before we start, once again, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. I mean, it really means a lot. When I got the email back saying you were interested, I was kind of like, no way. You know, like I kind of sent that initial email out, like hoping or like just expecting you to say like, you know, like no. And I was just ready to like get a no and like whatnot. But when you said yes, I was shocked. I literally sat there for like 5 minutes saying, what? You know, like my dad was like, what happened? I'm like, she said yes. He's like, she said yes. Perfect, actually. So it truly means a lot. And thank you.
Yeah. And I'm actually really glad because when I, responded and said that I would do it and then it sunk in and I started geeking out a little bit, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be on a podcast. I'm so excited. Like,
100%.
So honored to be asked.
100%. Well, yeah, we're so honored to have you on. And, before we get on to anything a little bit more, I guess, in depth, could you just talk about yourself a little bit more? Because even though I give a little bit of an introduction, you obviously know more about yourself than I do or than what I can find on the internet. So maybe talk a little bit about what you do, why you do what you do, and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So like a lot of people, I've always been interested in how people think, why they think the way they think.
Right.
I did my undergrad at UW-Madison in psychology.
Dope.
Okay, that's sick.
Yeah. So, but when I was done with my 4 years, I was like, I just want to start real life, I legit want like a 9-to-5 job that I can leave at the end of the day.
Jump straight to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I got into a couple sales jobs and realized that it wasn't
for you.
Wasn't fulfilling. Wasn't doing what I needed it to do. Mm-hmm. And then within the span of probably around 12 years, I lost like 10 people who were close to me.
Oh, okay.
5 who were really close, one of them including my mother.
Right.
So it really gave me a passion for kind of helping people through their hard times and just being there to listen and give advice.
Like gave you a totally different outlook on life.
Completely different perspective for sure. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I was actually wondering that because people who go into counseling, you have to have, a very big heart to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Oftentimes, like you said, it's not just because, that's where it. Like that's not just because they just decided to do it. It's because like for you example, you have a connection to it and you have a history, and I don't know. I think that just means a lot for a lot of people.
1,000,000%. Because especially in America, a nation that's so full of individualism. People are like me.
Right.
To really just spend your life helping people. That deserves a round of applause. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I agree.
Round of applause.
I agree.
Thank you.
1,000,000%. Because that really is very nice.
And that was part of my drive to do it, was just to do more. Do something for other people.
Like do your part, kind of.
Exactly.
That's cool. That's 100%. Really cool.
So I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
To really get into it. I guess just to address a main issue. Recently, one of our friends, he lost someone, right? May he rest in peace. And
he's actually the other co-podcaster.
Yeah.
He actually was the other.
Yeah, he's one of the main reasons why this show is even here. You know what I'm saying? His name is Trevor. It was me, Trevor, and Chase in Spanish class. We would always have these fun and funny conversations in class. when we were supposed to be working, we never worked. Shout out to Miss Monk for letting us have those conversations. I mean, we always had amazing conversations, and I thought to myself, let's record this and let's put it on a podcast. And Trevor was a key part of that, because he's such a funny guy who gives great insight, who really just adds a different type of energy. And that's amazing, honestly. And I really appreciate him as an individual. And he recently lost his brother, Will, may he rest in peace. And I guess the question that I have for you, and something that I've been like almost struggling with ever since the accident happened or he passed, is what can I do? What can I do as a friend? Because my immediate reaction was to reach out. But then I was like, no, don't do that. He wants to be by himself. Oh, you should reach out to just let him know you're there. And I was going back and forth. And I was like, should I visit him? No, that's weird. And I'm like, I don't want to invade their space. And I don't know what to do. Yeah, and I don't know what to do. And not even just for him, but I mean, there's been several losses in the Sheboygan community. And to all those people, what can we do in this time of hardship for them?
I think that it's really important to kind of follow your gut a little bit. One of the main things with grief is that it's almost as unique as a fingerprint to a person, right? The way that you grieve is different than the way that I would grieve, or even the way a sibling would grieve, right? So one of the best things that you can do is just ask, what can I do to help? The most they can say is no, right? That's the worst.
Yeah, that's true.
But just being there, asking, and making it perfectly clear that you will be there for them through this loss from day 3 to month 3 to year 3.
Because not to cut you off or anything, but that's one of the things for me is I just think there's a lot of gray area on, like how much you should step, how much you should help, how much you should give them their own space like that. And I was at the house when everything kind of happened. So obviously I'm outside of their family. So it was a very I wasn't quite sure how to act. I wasn't sure what to do, if I should leave, if I should stay there. And I think for me, there's just a lot of gray area. Like you said, like you talked about earlier, there's a lot of gray area for a lot of people who just don't know how much to help or how to help until, like you said, you ask those questions and then they answer. Because I think the biggest thing would just be asking questions and letting them know that you're there.
Yeah. I think so. I think, just being as transparent as possible, because for the most part, people going through the situation will tell you, right?
Yeah.
They're going to tell you, I need you here with me. I need a hug, or back up. Just go away. I need my space. But I think it's important. And then it's important to think about, you know them.
Right.
They're your friend, when he wants to be left alone for the most part, and when that he's in a spot where it's like, no, dude, I got to drag him out of the house because he needs to get out and get some fresh air or whatever. And all those little things, the little things you don't think about, like, hey, I'm rolling through Starbucks. Can I drop one on your front porch?
Okay.
Just all
little
that is super important.
And you talked a little bit about it earlier when you said, from day 3 to month 3.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting aspect about every situation or any loss or anything like that, because the initial reaction of the community is everybody's there to help. Everybody's helping, lending out, offering help, doing everything they can, talking, reaching out, everything. And then, for me, as I, as you, I guess, go through life and you see loss, it's interesting to see, the initial reaction of the whole community, a huge group of people. And then slowly, a week or so goes by, and then the people who knew the person the least, they kind of fade and move on. And then the next week, the next phase of people who knew him better than the last phase, they move on. And then slowly, as weeks go by, like you said, month 3, then it falls onto, just the focus group or just the family. And I think that's where grief maybe hits the hardest, because then you realize that everybody else has been able to move on, where,
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with me is, like, when the accident initially happened, I thought to myself, like, how would I feel if I lost someone? And I was just sitting there and thinking, I was like, that's something you never really get over. That's just something you need to, like, get stronger about and to be able to push on, And that's, like, my idea about it. I don't know if you can, like, talk about it, like, how it really is, like, because, like, dude, I was, like, imagining, like, losing or when, I lose someone because life happens, it's like, dude, I'm never going to get over that. I'm just going to have to get stronger. You know what I'm saying? To continue to push on.
Definitely. And I think that's, you brought up a good point as far as, the way society grieves right now. It's typically we have this kind of weird thought where once the funeral's over, okay, it's time to pick up and move on.
Right.
And people aren't able to do that a lot of times, and that's okay. That's normal. I realize we're on a podcast, but I brought a visual.
Okay, we got a camera too.
Okay, so this is the best example that I've found about talking about long-term effects of grief, right?
Okay.
So actually a Twitter person named Lauren Herschel came up with it. I really wish I would have, because it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's called the ball in the box analogy. Okay. And it comes through sometimes on social media. It'll go back and forth. So basically what happens is when you initially lose the person, this is your feeling, right?
Right.
Every time the ball hits the button is when you feel that hurt, that pain, that loss, right? Okay. So imagine this ping-ponging around in that little box, right? Okay. So if the ball is really big, the chances of it hitting the button are going to be great, right? Over time, the ball gets smaller. So as it bounces around in there, it's less likely to hit the hurt button, but the button doesn't get any smaller. Every time that ball hits, it's still, that pain is still strong and still, almost the same as day one.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So that, I think that's something to keep in mind, especially for, like we were talking about the length of time and things like that. That hurt remains the same for a long, long time.
No, 1,000,000%. And then, like you said, the best thing is to communicate, to do the simple things. I guess I was overthinking it. I do that all the time. And just to be straight up, straightforward. Ask them if they need help. Ask them how they're feeling. Ask them if you could do anything. And if not, well, then give them time. Just give them time.
Definitely. And I think that's very important. And again, I think it kind of goes back to our societal ideals around grief, right? Because it's like you do start to overthink it because you don't want to smother them. Yeah. You don't want to be a bother. You want to be helpful. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to forget about them either. It's such a shame that, you wouldn't do something because you were too scared to ask.
Right.
Yeah. No, 1,000,000%. Yeah, just ask and be straightforward and you'll get the response. You know what I'm saying? And
exactly.
Yeah,
1,000,000%. Most people will tell you, will tell you exactly what they need. Mm-hmm. I need a hug. I need you to leave me alone. If I start crying, escort me out and let me be, or,
Yeah, 100%. No, well, thank you so much for that. Honestly, that was just a question that's, kind of been bugging me. And I also ran into Trevor at Walmart. So even there in person, I didn't know what to do.
Sure.
Because I saw him and obviously we came in for a hug, because I haven't seen him in a while, hugged him and his brother. But then after that, I didn't know what to say. Yep. Like I literally had two diverging thoughts. One said, I'm praying for you. And one said, how you doing today? You know what I'm saying? Because one side of me wanted to show him or tell him, hey, I'm here for you. And the other side was like, just ignore that, Johnny. Talk about daily life. Try to get his mind off that. I was trying to crack jokes, cheesy jokes that weren't even funny. Nobody laughed. But I was trying to make him laugh or do something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like you said, just be straightforward and that'll let you know how they feel.
Right. Exactly.
So
because you're not going to bring it up and be like, oh, okay, well, maybe he's not thinking about it right now. And if I bring it up, it's going to be weird or whatever. It's like, no, it's pretty much always in the back of their mind, especially in the beginning. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So whatever you feel comfortable doing. Well, I'm glad you said, how are you doing? Because that's one of the worst ones, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because most people don't think about it, right? Because think about yourself, right? When you're feeling down or bad or whatever, and someone asks you, hey, how you doing? You're fine.
Really, that's the worst thing.
Right. Because it's fine.
The worst one, Johnny. Come
We're
on.
learning, man. We're learning.
Like, what should I say? What's today? How are you?
Totally fine, because it's such an abstract question, right?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever like answered a question like that truthfully. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's 100 times easier to just be like, all right, I'm good, I'm straight, like
right,
because
100%,
nobody is really honest about it, and then again, the person answering the question is going to overthink it. Okay, well, will they be able to handle my response?
Right.
Because sometimes when we answer truthfully, people then don't know how to handle the response, right?
100%.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
personally, when people always ask me that question, I always try to say good, great, even when I'm doing like super horrible, especially at school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the reason for that is like, I don't want to like almost plague them with that, and I don't want to make them feel bad and be like, whoa, I'm not your therapist, I just wanted some small talk. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But. Well, thank you so much for answering that, because that honestly was something that's just been bugging me every night. And just be straightforward, communicate. So perfect. Thank you so much for that, honestly.
Yeah, no, not a problem.
No, honestly, because she's here to help us too. You know what I'm saying? She's here to help us with our problems. So, yeah. Also, another question that I had for you is, On the website that I found you on, you work with all different types of age groups.
Correct.
How is that? Working with one day teenagers and one day elderly. Like, is there?
I feel like there's a I feel like you'd probably see a lot of drastic, differences with how people handle grief, especially when you compare, younger kids or teenagers and adults. I don't know. I think that's.
Or is your approach different with different age groups, or do you try to do things differently, or things like that? Not even just with grief, with all the issues that you work with.
Yeah, for sure. I actually tell my patients when I first meet them that I try to cater everything towards them.
Mm-hmm.
So it is so individual, to that specific person, to what their needs are, to what, their symptoms are. And I try to be as person-centered as possible because that's where you get the most results. I also, as a therapist, I'm probably a little bit more transparent than most therapists. Going to school, they're like, don't talk about yourself. You're there for the patient. It's their therapy, right? But I feel like in order to trust me, you need to know something about me as well.
Right, like a more personal relation.
Exactly. So if I have an anecdote that's going to completely relate to what you're talking about, I'm going to say it just to, build that trust, build that rapport, because that's so important, because you're not going to open up to me if you don't trust me.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, that's beautiful, because like you said, you're for every person it's different. You come in with like a different, I guess, format depending on the individual, specific to them. And what's great about that is like you're not coming in like very generic, like with a list of things you're going to ask or a list of things you're going to do, and you're really just doing what's best for them. You know what I'm saying? And really trying to make it just as personal as possible, and that's great. You know what I'm saying? Because people are different, and you can't come in with like generic things.
Is it this kind of just came up for me when you were talking about how you share your personal your personal experiences with the people you work with. I guess my question for you is it hard sometimes to keep your work separate from your personal life, because you're dealing with a lot of I'm sure you're dealing with a lot of grief, and you're helping a lot of people, and it's not easy to help other people with their grief, because what they're, oftentimes what people do is they're looking for support. And so some of that grief is passed on to you, and you have to be there to hold it and support them. So I was just wondering, is it hard sometimes to go home after, I don't know how to phrase that question.
No, for sure. I completely understand what you're asking. And to be perfectly honest with you, I really thought it was going to be more difficult.
Okay.
Just being, kind of a very empathetic person and being able to read people pretty well. I really thought that I would carry a lot of that home. I mean, I would be lying if I said I don't, because obviously you do. But I have been able to put some good boundaries in place that,
like healthy boundaries. That's good.
This is where the work is, this is where home is.
100%. Okay.
And then, just some really good self-care and coping skills.
What's some of that self-care that you do? Like some things you like try to work out, you try to like meditate, anything you do to make sure, that grief isn't passed on to you and whatnot. Yeah,
for sure. I wish I could do more working out. I used to be an avid runner, and I haven't quite gotten back into it yet since grad school, but
is what it is. It's how it goes.
It is what it is, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I do have a dog that I love, so we go for a lot of walks. Yeah. I like to spend time outside as much as possible. I love fresh air. Yeah, those kind of things. I also like to read, for fun, not just, I try to alternate between reading a book for work and then reading a fun book and stuff like that. So
no, that's great. You make time, for yourself and for work, and making sure you keep it separated so that doesn't affect you, personally and whatnot. So yeah, that's perfect. No, and do you have any tips to people listening? Like, hey, I'm dealing with a lot of stress with grief, like you said, like personal habits that they can do, like maybe go on to start working out, or to people who are like struggling personally, like any tips, like
for sure,
lifestyle that they can change? For
sure. Something that's kind of super important that a lot of people don't think about is it's not necessarily the amount of sleep you get. It's if you go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time.
Okay.
So sleep schedule is actually super important. One of my favorites also, like I said, I love outside. Never underestimate the benefit of fresh air. Fresh air, sunshine, amazing. I know right now we don't get a lot of sunshine, but at least the fresh air is really good. If you're like really stressed or feeling really anxious, you can put like a cold compress on your face, actually.
Okay.
What it does is it stimulates the vagus nerve, which is one of the largest nerves in your body. And even though your mind won't calm down, it sends a sensation to your body to tell it to calm down.
Oh.
So that can be super helpful too. And there's a bunch of different things you can do to stimulate your vagus nerve to help calm down. Cold is one of my favorite.
Okay.
But there's also the regular deep breathing, humming actually. And let's see, those are my favorites. So those are the ones I remember.
No, 100%. Yeah, that's perfect. Write those down.
I've never even heard, I don't know, I've just never had that insight before. I didn't know that.
Yeah, especially that one. What do you do where like calms down like your nerve? We put a
cold compress on your face. Yep. Actually, it's called the diver's reflex. So it works best if you can put something like a bag of frozen peas on your eyes or whatever, and then hold your breath for a little bit, because what it's doing is it's mimicking your body diving into cold water and the shock of that. But that sensation helps to actually calm your body down.
I'll have to try that. Yeah, definitely. Everybody listening, I mean, take these tips and apply them to your life, because honestly, personally, I don't know what it is about me, but I feel like, I mean, I guess it's with everybody, but when I'm going to do something like this podcast, or if I'm going to talk in front of church, you know, because I help my dad out and whatnot, or even in school, in high school, when I would speak in front of people, I had like a lot of like anxiety, you know what I'm saying? And when I tell people that, they're always like, really, I wouldn't expect you to have anxiety because you're not really the shy type of person. It's
true.
But it's honestly like, I mean, there's been times in the past for church where I've had to like step out because that anxiety was like overriding me. Like, and it was crazy, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'll take some of those tips. And is there anything else, actually, I guess, for you to help me? Any tips? You know, I'm going to take advantage of this, you know? Like, any tips for, like, anxiety? Because I'm not going to lie, sometimes it's, like, overwhelming. Even when I start deep breathing, I do, like, positive self-talk, it gets to the point where it's, like, it's in my mind and I just can't get it out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like I said, that cold one is one of my favorites, you know, because you can do it anywhere. You know, if you're in traffic, you can stick your head out the window if it's cold. You can crank the air conditioning. You know, you can step into the bathroom, splash cold water on your face. So it's an easy one to do.
A little life hack, yeah.
The other one is, you know, everybody says deep breathing. Well, deep breathing can be like super abstract, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, and it's sometimes hard to concentrate. So what I tell people to do is to use their hand and to breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. So that then you're concentrating on your breath and watching your fingers, and then
so you can concentrate exactly.
You're taking your focus.
Yes, because when I'm deep breathing, I'm like, and then it's like a thought. You're gonna mess up, and I'm like, Frank, no, I gotta relax. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to think about
it's like
thoughts.
your body's like telling you why you're deep breathing.
Exactly.
Almost. It's like I'm doing this so I don't get scared of this, and it's like, well, now I'm scared.
Now I'm scared again. It's like,
exactly.
Now I'm scared again. Like it's a problem, and that's for a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Anxiety, like honestly, and it's something that's so tough. I mean, really, anything to deal with mental issues is so tough because, like, I mean, obviously you don't see it. It has something that's physical, and like you said, you can ask someone, "How are you?" and they're not doing good.
Our cameraman's. Oh wait, never mind. I lied.
Had it now? No, we had it now. All right, bet. Okay, but like the thing with like mental issues and whatnot is they're so difficult because someone could be dealing with anxiety, with depression, all that stuff, and you don't see it, you know, and they're not, you know, showing any physical symptoms. Like, for example, my parents, I love my parents, they're absolutely amazing, but they come from a more traditional time, where to them, if you're not dying, like, physically, you're fine. You know what I'm saying?
Rub
like,
some dirt on it, you're okay.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, my dad, he has a saying, if you can eat food, you're not sick. I'm like, I'm trying to survive. Like, I'm not feeling good. I'm trying to survive, and especially with mental issues, that's tough in a lot of cultures.
Yeah.
That is so tough. I mean, I guess for all those people listening, even like myself, who are part of those cultures, like, what can we say to our parents to help them understand that a little bit? Or like, what do you think approach we can take to, like help out with that? Because it's tough, especially for me when I've dealt with like mental things. My parents are like, you're fine, even though I'm not fine.
Right. And I think that just is a struggle because there are some cultures that just, It just you know, you keep the problems in the family. You don't need to talk about them. But you know, they are very pervasive across everyone, across all cultures, and you know, a lot of those mental ailments can cause physical ailments as well.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
You know, to use your dad's example, you know, people lose their appetite. You know,
facts.
People can make themselves physically sick from just being tense and all the time. So I think, you know, just reminding them that those struggles are still a part of your body, right?
Yeah.
You know, it may be more intangible, but it still has physical effects on your body.
Okay. 1,000,000%.
I do think people forget, you know, how often our physical state is connected to our mental state, which, you know, that sounds like super philosophical, but I think it's true. I think, you know, people undermine that.
And they're not like talking about like, I mean, not even like the relationship that our mind and our body has, but like the power of the mind, you know, and
Yes,
like
very
things like
much
that.
so.
And I actually have a question to ask you, kind of like going off on a little different road. Do you believe like in do you believe like in manifestation and things like that? Like thinking about like good thoughts and they'll come to you, or like
Like the power of positive
yeah,
thinking,
like the power
right?
of positive thinking and stuff like that. Like, what's your like thoughts on that, honestly?
So my thought on that is actually, you know, not necessarily that you're manifesting something, but if you're looking for the positive, you will notice the positive.
Okay.
Okay. So like, for example, in a depressed person, because they are, you know, pervasively sad, what they're actually doing is they're creating a neural pathway in their brain that constantly goes to the sad, constantly goes to the bad, right? So what happens is that's all they notice, because your brain is trying to filter out all this information that's around you, right? And you tend to focus on what you like or what is important to you, right?
Okay.
So when you're in this mental state where you're very sad, you notice all the negative stuff.
Okay.
So in order to treat that, you have to start thinking a different way. You have to break those pathways that make you notice all the negative things. And then that helps. So to answer that question, I guess, if you focus on the positive, you will notice the positive.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily
Like some
that
sort of magic thing.
right.
Like,
It's not necessarily
like I'm
that you're
thinking-
creating
yeah, okay.
it.
Yeah,
It's that you're looking for it, so you see
Okay,
it.
1,000,000%.
I think for me that's one of the biggest things that I have a hard time with is when something doesn't go my way or I get the short end of the stick. It's really easy for me to like just have a completely negative lens and, like you said, focus on all the negatives. And you know, even like my mom, she'd be like, Chase, like, you know, like stop focusing on the negatives. Like you have good stuff around you. Like, can you focus on that or whatever? And like obviously, like for anybody, like I know I should be like, you know what, you're right. Like I should be. There's all this positive stuff going on, but it's just really hard to, you know, to, like you said, break those neural pathways. And is there like I guess a direction that somebody should take in order to try to
change
focus
their mindset
to
and
focus
things
on
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
for sure. It's a technique we call reframing, which is just a different way of looking at things, right?
Okay.
So take the thought that is bothering you or making you sad or whatever. Say you didn't get a job. You know, what's your default, right? Oh, I didn't get the job. I suck. You know, things like that, right? So think about it. No, maybe there was somebody who was just better qualified and I'll get the next one, right?
Okay.
So instead of making it a very negative self-talk, you're changing it to more just an open-ended, that's kind of the way things are.
1,000,000%.
Sure.
No, facts.
And I guess kind of going off how you're talking about like kind of like a neural approach, in like a little biography, it said that your approach is based on cognitive behavioral model of therapy. Is that, can you like just elaborate on that?
Yeah, it sounds like I heard that and I was like,
like, or
Already panicking.
like
I'm
what
like,
kind of what kind of approach that is. And
Sure. It is legit just a fancy way of saying connecting your behavior and your emotions and your thought process.
okay, cool.
And the way that all three of them interact and can affect each other.
Oh, well, okay.
All
So
right.
very, very much how we were talking about how like the power of the mind that Johnny was
Yeah,
talking
1,000,000%.
about.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Man, science, man. Always putting these fancy words on
I
these
know.
on these topics. But I mean, that was really the hardest part about science. You know what I'm saying? Like a super intense word. Oh, what does that mean? Air. I'm like, what? Like something really simple. You know what I'm saying? No, but yeah, I mean, positive thinking, that's something really important. Something that I need to like reincorporate into my life, because when I was a little bit younger, like 2-3 years ago, I was always super positive and I felt like life was better for me. But now when I'm a little bit more negative, I feel like life is worse. But like you said, no, it's that I'm focusing on the negative more. You know what I'm saying? And that's not, I just got to rekindle that positivity into my life. And like you said, self-talk. I mean, is there anything else that people can do to, you know, like maybe write down 10 things that they're grateful for, or
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
things like that? Like what else do you think people can do?
So I use a technique called GLAD, which is super helpful. And the letters stand for something you're grateful for, something you learned, something you accomplished, and something that caused delight.
Okay.
So, it's just something you can jot down like at night before you go to bed, when you get up in the morning.
Should we do that right now? Try? Wait, what is it? What she started over?
Grateful.
Okay, grateful. I'll go first. I'm grateful for you coming on to the show. So grateful, honestly.
Thank you.
I'm super grateful for that. Chase?
All right. Well, I'll take I'm very grateful to have finished my first semester and have time to reflect on like what I've learned over the semester and take a break.
Okay. Excellent.
Dom, do you want to say something? Dom, okay, behind the camera. He just too focused on the camera work.
I'll go to I'm grateful for being asked onto the podcast.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
And then what's after?
Something you learned.
Something I learned today or recently?
Today. So, and don't overthink it, right? It's not like, right? It's not like
about a fact that I saw on Google or something.
Right. Like I learned to ride a unicycle today.
Okay.
You're not always going to have that super intense learn thing. It can just be like, I learned that when it's, not sunny outside, I feel worse, or you know what I mean? Don't overthink it.
Okay. I learned that I need to focus on the positive a little bit more, because life isn't worse or getting worse. It's that I'm focusing more on the negative. So I learned that I need to rekindle my focus onto the positive.
Excellent.
Beautiful. I'm going to take, a different approach to it. I learned that when I order an unwich from Jimmy John's, I shouldn't get lettuce on it because it's already wrapped in lettuce. So then the lettuce is just kind of overwhelming.
Excellent.
Okay, perfect. That's actually a good tip. That's
exactly.
Really good tip.
Yep. I learned that people your age can be very astute and intelligent.
Dude, stop! Yo, chill out. When I put that in my college application, this expert called me a student intelligent, by the way. Okay, what's after learned?
Accomplish.
Something I accomplished today?
Mm-hmm.
Overthinking? No, I'm playing. Something I accomplished having the first guest on Stuck in Adolescence, because honestly, it's almost like a dream come true, to be honest. this entire podcast is like a dream come true, because for years I've been thinking about doing something like this, and I procrastinate all the time. So I always thought to myself, I would like dream about it, but I'm like, is it really ever going to happen? I always dream about having experts as yourself on this podcast, and to actually have it happen, it's like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? It's like, whoa. So I accomplished that, having the first guest on Stuck in Adolescence. That's amazing.
Awesome. Something today I accomplished was, since getting back to Sheboygan, I haven't had a gym membership because I've been at school, so I haven't needed one. So I got a gym membership, and I donated plasma. So
excellent. All right. I accomplished some Christmas shopping today.
Okay, perfect. 100%.
That's really
absolutely
good.
Fantastic. Yeah, Christmas is coming up. What's after accomplished?
Delighted.
Today, something I'm delighted about today. I keep saying that. All right. Delighted. I'm delighted. Or like something that like makes me happy? Is that like?
Yeah, something that brought you delight or happiness. It can be simple or...
My parents, honestly.
Okay.
Because they helped me set all this up. And before the show, my mom was texting me, do you need anything? Do you want me to come? Do you want me to help? Do you want me to do anything? And it just almost reminded me that my parents love me a lot. You know what I'm saying? And that they've really done so much to just make sure I'm way better off than they were. Honestly, because their life story, they're going to be on the podcast one day, Chase. Their life story is insane, and they just continue to do everything to make sure that my life is as smooth as possible, at least as much as they can do. So I'm delighted to have the parents that I have, honestly. Shout out to them.
Beautiful. I'm really loving these intellectual answers.
You know the deal. Got a flex for the colleges.
Something that has been delightful for me today. One of my homies texted me, and we're going to get dinner tonight as a group or whatever, a couple of us. So
awesome.
I think that was cool. I haven't seen him in a while. So
for sure.
Okay.
Actually, when I was turning off of Taylor onto Superior, I looked at the guy next to me and he smiled, and I smiled back, and it was just nice to have that that facial connection, right, with another person.
Like the little things, man. The little things.
No,
exactly.
That is amazing, because honestly, that could turn out a lot more awkward. Trust me, it's happened to me all the time. Right?
Oh, yeah.
I turn, he turns, we look away, and then we turn again. Oh, look away. And I'm like, dude, stop looking. Like, when is it gonna turn green or something?
It's crazy, how much those little things do matter, especially to somebody who is struggling. I do think little things like that can mean much more than people.
That is one thing that I have been really trying to promote. In the business contacts that I have with my clients is just, especially right now, it's all the small things you can do, 100%. Right? Because it's like I said, it's very hard to smile at people, right? Because you can't see their faces. But, just to be polite, to hold a door, any little thing that you can do to be kind and polite to somebody is going to go a long way right now.
1,000,000%. Yeah. And yeah, those small things matter a lot because personally, I mean, I don't do it as much anymore, but in the past, you know, I would always try to smile at people, always try to like say, have a great day, or, you know, God bless you. Chase could probably
every day. If you if you saw him in the hallway, he'd be like, "All right, what's up, man? Have a great day. God bless." Every time.
I mean, back then it was just a habit and I didn't really notice the impact that it really had. But, you know, then people started reaching out to me. You know, for example, I'm not going to say her name, but it was someone in the hall who I said, have a great day to. And after they hit me up and they say, you really made my day with that. Like every time I see you in the hall, you always bring up my mood. Thank you for that. Thank you for saying have a great day. Thank you for smiling my way. And at first it was like, it was something small. Like, what's the deal? And I was like, but you know, you never know what people are going through. And that simple smile can really make their day 1,000,000 times better. Like there's this example. Yes. I was in Pizza Ranch just one time. Pizza Ranch, absolutely amazing. Shout out to Pizza Ranch. Didn't want to sponsor the episode actually. No, I'm playing Imagine. That'd be cool though. No, Pizza Ranch, absolutely amazing. And I said, God bless you to this lady. And you know, she said, God bless you back. And then afterwards, before I left, she came up to me and she said, she almost started cheering up. She's like, it was honestly so beautiful to just see young people like yourself, you know, spreading the love of God and things like that. And my dad was like, you should have gave her a hug. I was like, no, I don't even know her, but like, you know what I'm saying? She came up to me, she started like almost tearing up and all that. And it was just like, wow, something so small, a little bit of positivity can go such a long way.
Right. And it always shocks me when you do what comes naturally to you and then somebody's surprised by it.
Right.
You know, there was one time when I was in line in Walmart and I had some crazy dinosaur t-shirt or something on and the guy in front of me turned around and commented and I just started talking to him and we had a whole conversation while we're just waiting in line. And when he was done paying for his stuff, he turned around and he looked at me and he goes, thank you. I'm like, for what?
Right.
He's like, for having a conversation. He's like, most people wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that really shocked me. It's like, how hard is it to just be nice and polite and receptive to the people around you?
No, 1,000,000%. I mean, there's a quote by The Rock. I'm going to say it right now. It's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great quote.
That's
the quote of the day or
that's
something.
The Rock
that's
right
good.
there. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
pretty
That is an absolute demigod. You know, I mean, people like him who positivity. It's absolutely amazing. Honestly, you gotta stay positive, and you gotta stay golden.
I guess this came up for me when you were talking about how you say God bless. So kind of like people who are dealing with grief oftentimes turn to religion or you know what I mean, to something in that realm, I guess, of life. So do you see a lot of people who come to you and want to talk to you about religion or talk to you about how God, you know, may or may not be helping them or making it easier for them? Because I feel like that's a big part of dealing with grief for a lot of people who are part of the church. And I just wanted to, like, is that something that you see more than often or?
Yeah. So, you know, as a therapist, I'm not, you know, non-denominational,
right.
non-biased,
yeah.
you know, but I do see that grief causes people either to, you know, cling harder to their religion or it separates some people from it.
Yeah.
You know, you have that catharsis, that crisis of like, well, why did this happen? You know, why would a good God let this happen? Type thing. So, I honestly, you know, because I'm not a religious advisor, I just try to guide people through their own journey the best way that I can, you know, and answer their questions as best that I can.
Mm-hmm.
No, 1,000,000%. And yeah, like you said, either some people cling harder or they turn away completely. I mean, I've obviously growing up in the church my entire life, I've seen that. And I mean, my dad, you know, the reason why he turned to God is because he didn't have a father figure in his home, because there was problems in his home, because there was so many things going on that he needed someone to turn to. And, you know, he turned to God. I mean, I have another person in the church who lost his father, right? He was murdered. And what he did was turn to God, you know, but then there's other examples of people who lost someone who were very religious and then turned away from God, you know, and it's just interesting to see that. And honestly, it's interesting to see like even if you don't believe in God, just the benefits that, you know, religion and I guess what it really goes to show is that having a support group is so important. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Regardless, you know, if you take religion out of the picture for just a second, I think the biggest thing you said is just having a support group.
Because that's what religion is sometimes. You know, just having church members to talk to have your pastor to talk to. You know, that's the importance of just having people there.
Yeah, and that brings up a much larger point about community, right? That's a lot of what religion sometimes brings to people, is a community and a sense of community. That's one of the basic questions that I ask when I have a new patient is, do you have a good support system, and who are they? Because that is so important, and it is very hard to find nowadays. If you don't have a tight-knit family, if you're new to the area, it's very hard to meet people and trust people and build a sense of community, of support, of friendship, things like that.
And, I guess building off of that, you talked about, having a support group and community and stuff. And I want to ask you about social media.
For sure.
And how, because a lot of people get a false sense of community, or, anything like that through social media. And you can go off on a tangent, because I just think social media has definitely made it harder, especially for newer generations, to deal with maybe not grief in a sense of loss, but grief in the sense of like self-loathing, or something like that. And I just wanted to ask your opinion on social media.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's an amazing point, right? Because that's the other part of grief too, right? Is you don't necessarily have to grieve a person. Sometimes you grieve an opportunity that you lost, or things like that, right? So, but it's kind of the same process, right? But that is one of the things that I have been studying now and doing some continuing education work on, is the effect of social media and what it's having on our society. And that's exactly what it is, because people are relying on their technology for all their communication. Younger kids are not getting driver's licenses because everybody's in their phone. Right. They don't need to go anywhere. When I was 16, it was like, no, you needed a car because you needed to go with your friends.
Hang out with the crew, hang out with the squad.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's so many things that it's doing. And there is actually some very fascinating research right now, too, on the way it is actually affecting our neural pathways. Okay. It's legitimately changing our brain.
No, 1,000,000%. I watched a film. It's a technology film. It's on Netflix. It was like one of the top-rated films like in the nation. And The Social Dilemma. That's what it's called. Have you seen that?
Yep.
The Social Dilemma.
Excellent.
In that film, there were people who worked for Google, people who worked for Facebook, the CEOs, the people who created like the marketing teams for these huge social media platforms. And one point that was brought up is that certain companies, certain platforms hired psychologists, people who studied the brain, to be able to figure out a system to keep people hooked on to their social media.
Crazy.
And it's insane. Like at the end of the day, like social media platforms, you're not the consumer, you're the product when using that type of stuff. And that's what people need to realize, that they don't care about if you're doing good or bad. They care about that screen time. Yeah. And that can be super harmful, because in the film it was saying like they'll show you stuff that maybe you don't want to see, so you can comment, and so you can have a rant in the comment section, so you can stay longer on the app,
Exactly.
That's insane.
Well, and to speak to that, I think this is just opinion. Yeah, okay. However, I feel like that's sort of reinforcing the idea of everybody sort of digging their feet in the sand, as far as my opinions are right, yours are wrong. Before, I don't mean to bring politics up, but it's a very good example, right? Before, we used to be able to agree to disagree. You have your opinion, I have my opinion, but we were still respectful, right?
1,000,000%. Now?
But now I believe that social media algorithm that is only showing you things that are important to you is reinforcing in your mind how right you are about a certain subject. And then that really is giving you this delusion almost that you are 100% correct 100%. And everybody else is 100% wrong.
Right.
Yeah, not only that, but the social media platforms, they'll send you stuff like, imagine you're a Trump supporter supporting the Republican Party that isn't even true. Like at the end of the day, these platforms don't care about facts. They care about your screen time. Going back to that. So they'll send you constant documents and fake newspapers, bashing on Democrats, bashing on them, and praising your party. I mean, this goes both ways. I'm not saying, I support, you said, but I don't want to get into politics, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that's super dangerous. And that perpetuates not only just misinformation, but that idea of, I'm 1,000,000% right, you're wrong, and then the name calling starts, right? You're stupid, you're ignorant, get your facts right. No, you get your facts right. And then it's like, pointed fingers, and it just separates us even more.
Exactly.
And it's so sad to see, honestly, especially in politics. Because, I know people who have lost friends because of that, and it's just, I don't know, not worth it.
Right. Have you seen, because obviously this year there's been a lot going on in the world of politics. There's been a lot of disagreement. There's been a lot of like frustration, a lot of emotion. I think that's the biggest thing. And especially in politics today, there's been so much more emotion involved with it than there has been. And then, you put the pandemic, on top of that, you put people staying in home with sometimes very close, their close family, which for better or for worse, being enclosed with your own family it kind of sucks sometimes. But has that made a difference in your work and the people that come to speak with you and, I don't know, that you end up working with?
Yeah, I think so. And I also feel like people who before may not have felt like they needed to seek, outside help are more inclined to do so now. And just a different category of people, maybe. I'm starting to see a lot more people with anxiety, a lot more people who would normally just sort of write themselves off as, nope, I'm just type A, high functioning,
Right.
But not being able to control what's going on around them,
right.
Kind of sets them in a spiral a little bit. I'm very worried about, what the mental health impact of this pandemic is going to be, especially with one of my biggest fears is isolation, especially now that, companies can see that they can, cut overhead by having people work at home, right?
Right?
Well, a lot of people, sometimes that was their only human contact, was going to work and leaving the house. The other thing is because we're not, we're supposed to be 6 feet apart. We're not supposed to touch each other.
Yeah.
People are very touch starved.
Yeah.
Because if you live by yourself and you're not supposed to touch anybody that's not a member of your household, I mean, that's different. And we are social animals. It does send signals to our brain when we're touched by another human. We crave that. We long for that. So missing that for a lot of people is difficult.
No, 1,000,000%. I mean, even when I saw Trevor at Walmart and I gave him a hug, I mean, not to call myself out. Sorry, guys, we were wearing masks and everything, but came in for a hug. It was like, whoa. Like, I haven't done this in a while with someone who isn't like my dad or my mom. And I love my mom and I love my mom and my dad, but it's different. You know what I'm saying? It's different. And it was just like embracing someone. It was like, wow. I also wanted to go back to another point you said, that a lot more people have been coming out to, I guess, ask for help. What can, I guess, we do, or what can like people do to almost...
The people listening?
Yeah, to break that stigma about like reaching out for help. You know what I'm saying? Because I know me personally, when I was younger, I was like, if I had an issue, I was like, I'm fine. I don't want to reach out for help. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I need to stop being a victim. I need to stop being so weak.
That's
a
very good way to put it.
Even with like masculinity and all that, I need to be more of a man. That's a big thing too. That's coming to my mind. Like, what can we do to, break that and say, hey, you know what? It's okay to reach out for help.
Yeah. And that just goes to the whole, stigma of trying to break the stigma of mental health. Everybody needs help at some point.
Yeah.
And just, there's no shame in asking for help. There is nothing wrong with you if you just need a couple extra tools in your tool belt to be the best you can be. Yeah. I think it's, a really good point for that, because it doesn't mean that, you can't do it. It just means it'll be easier for you to get through it with a little bit of help and support.
1,000,000%. And like you said, everybody's going to need help. And I think that's something important to know. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing with mental issues, a lot of people hide them. Yes. So imagine, for example, let's give Dominic, right? He's going through mental issues. You're not going through anything, Dom. Just giving you an example. For him in his mind, he might be like, I'm the only one going through this. I don't want to plague anybody with it. And like you said, everybody goes through things, and all of us are going to need help in a point in time. And that's a big thing to remember, Yes. That we're a lot more similar than we think.
Definitely.
That's an important thing.
And the fact that I think a lot of people also have this thought of, okay, well, it'll pass, or it's not severe enough to require help, right? Well, if it's causing you an issue in your daily life, it is a problem, right?
Do you, talking about how people sometimes are reluctant to, I guess, expose themselves or open up to other people when they're dealing with problems. Do you ever see that with clients that you work with? Like, because obviously they reached out to you for help, but do you still, see maybe a wall between them, like really opening up and giving kind of all of what they're dealing with to you, or you know what I mean?
Definitely. There, that goes back to the point that I made earlier about trying to be transparent and build a trusting relationship.
Right.
Because a lot of people have experienced a lot of judgment on their problems, or kind of like been told to suck it up or move on or whatever. So it takes time. It takes a lot of time, to just kind of get through that tough exterior, and that's kind of the benefit of a therapist sometimes, is that I'm non-biased, non-judgmental,
right. And you're just gonna keep going and going until they
right, and that's what I'm there for. You can come in and emotionally barf all over me, and that's kind of the point, right?
That's kind of the point.
Yeah,
because people they don't want to express their emotions because they don't want to emotionally barf on anyone. They don't want to be like, I don't want to bother you, but reaching out to a therapist, you know what I'm saying? And that's an important thing that people should like almost normalize, because people are like, oh, you're seeing a therapist, you have problems. Like, it's like, we all have problems. Don't judge me.
Exactly.
I'm just willing to accept them and willing to be a little bit more vulnerable, and that's going to help me in the long run.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like it's almost like, in under the umbrella of normalizing it, it's almost like you're going to see a personal trainer. People work out their bodies, and it's
excellent.
It's the same thing as working out your mind, and maybe not working out your mind, but
working on your mind.
Yeah, that was nice.
Quote that.
Do you? How often? Or not how often? How long do people come and like see you for? Like, is there like for weeks, a couple days, a couple sessions? Like, is it very dependent?
It's completely person dependent. Completely. So it all depends on what they're going through. Some people come in for a couple sessions, maybe once a week, every other week, and then they're good, and I discharge them. Some people are there for years,
right?
Wow. And some people will step out for a time because everything's going well, and then they'll, step back in because they're in crisis or something like that. But, one of the important things to remember too, and this goes along with getting rid of the stigma, is because it's easier for you to learn and absorb the tools that I'm giving you when you're not in crisis mode.
Right.
Because your brain is processing at a higher level when you're not kind of in that freaking out fight or flight mode. So it's almost better to come in and learn the skills before the freak out.
Right.
So, how to handle it.
Yeah, it's like having those tools ready. Like imagine in my car, I have jumper cables always ready there.
Exactly.
I'm not waiting for my battery to die to be like, oh, now I need cables. Oh, well, it's not going to help me now if I'm stranded in the middle of a highway. You know what I'm saying? Better to have those tools right now. Even if you're feeling fine, if you're feeling great, reach out, talk to the experts, because at the end of the day, they're experts for a reason. You know what I'm saying? And they're here to help at the end of the day. So yeah, 1,000,000%. Get those tools in the toolbox.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that's unique about my practice is that I run a cash practice, so I don't bill insurance.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what a lot of people don't realize is that if you use your insurance for mental health reasons, they have to give you a diagnosis.
God, dude.
So you would have you have generalized anxiety disorder, and that will go on your medical record and it'll stay there. So a lot of people, if they, because they think, well, I'm not diagnosable as anything. You come to someone like me, I don't need to do that. I can treat you for your symptoms, and I don't have to
regardless
give you that.
of
Yes.
It's insurance, bro.
Yeah,
we could start talking about insurance.
Dude, I watched a film in Insurer Diversity Studies about insurance. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm gonna barf.
It's pretty. Sometimes I don't know. Like obviously, like we're just
we're
18 and we have a long way to go when it comes to mortgages and insurance, but. For me right now, my perspective on insurance is a little iffy. I just don't necessarily, whatever. It's just kind of a nasty game. But I guess, so you're talking about like the people who come and see you. Do you do any group therapy, or do you meet with the groups of people or families, or is it more like individual focused?
So I have done group before. The clinic that I work at runs in LGBTQ plus.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
On the website, it says LGBTQ plus youth, actually.
Yep, it is. Amazing. It's a youth.
That's
for
awesome.
Under 18.
That is awesome.
Yep. So I actually don't facilitate that group. So we do that group, and then we also run a pet loss support group.
That's also also
cool,
on here, 100%.
So but if I'm seeing, so I usually see individuals or couples. I also do some couples work.
Cool, couple therapy.
Yeah,
I feel like you've probably seen a couple. You've probably seen some
a couple couples.
A couple couples, yeah.
A couple couples, you know what I mean?
And if for some reason I am seeing somebody and it would benefit them to have a family member come in to facilitate a conversation, I also do that.
Okay, 1,000,000%.
Right.
No, I actually have a cool question. You said you work with couples, and you obviously know how the mind works. Any tips on how to pick up girls? Like any psychological tips, like anything I have to say in a certain tone to be able to like persuade them?
Be honest.
Like hypnotize them?
Yes.
I'll be honest.
Just be honest.
Just be honest. Just be straight up.
Yeah.
And I think you should just be confident.
Yes.
Easier said than done, dude.
Okay, yeah,
Easier said than done.
Confidence goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, 1,000,000%. That's true.
So, do you often like with the LGBTQ plus group? Do you like meet with them and have group sessions, or is that I don't know, like is that under your umbrella? Like, is that what you?
No, I don't facilitate the group, so I don't lead
Okay.
that group.
Okay.
But I have participated in it. I think they're doing it on Zoom right now because
Okay.
right.
Yeah, with everything going on with
but,
COVID.
Yep. But our whole clinic is LGBTQ plus friendly.
Cool.
So.
Oh yeah,
That is awesome.
That is absolutely amazing. Also, in one of my classes, Intro to Diversity Studies, I've been learning a lot more about the struggles of LGBTQ plus people, and it really is insane. You know, everything they go through. I mean, it's basically like,
Especially at a younger age, like
Oh,
you said, 18 and under,
1,000,000%.
when everything's very new and everything's,
yeah, and especially people who are like obviously are hiding in the closet per se. I mean, you're just living every day not as yourself.
right.
Like that's
Right.
horrible. And not only that, but in society, obviously, there's still a lot of negative stigmas over LGBTQ plus people. I mean, I was
For
learning
sure.
about this, that there's still, I mean, think about it. For so many years, you know, experts even thought that, you know, being gay or homosexual was a mental illness. I'm pretty sure I was reading that up until like 1973, the APA, like American Psychological Association, classified homosexuality as a mental illness.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So now our grandparents, our great grandparents.
That's what like literally 50 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. So
Right.
there's people living today who said, no, you do have an issue. According to science, you have an issue. You know,
Correct.
it's like that's just
It's-
crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
That's just crazy to me. And like, is there anything that, I mean, again, going back to the people, because at the end of the day, you know, this new generation, we should, or I think we're capable of changing and breaking some of these stigmas. What things do you think we can do to help with this stigma and to help get rid of these incorrect and bad ideas about LGBTQ plus people?
or even just the barrier between people being afraid of coming out or just anything in that area.
In that realm, really.
I think, to be honest, I think it's as simple as just be kind to people.
Right.
Try to be as kind and non-judgmental as possible. Because, everybody's going through something, and you don't necessarily know how your kindness is going to give them that extra sense of comfort, of security, of confidence in themselves. So I really think that that's a huge part of it.
No, 1,000,000%. Yeah, just be kind. No, 1,000,000%. Like, I mean, for example, I'm going to give an example of Chase. Super nice guy. I'm going to give a story. When I first came to Urban Middle School, I first went to Horseman. I transferred out because I was a horrible student. Thank God my mom pulled me out of there. But I went to Urban, and I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit tough. It was a little bit tough coming to a new school and everything like that and wanting to fit in. And someone who I noticed was always kind was Chase. I mean, Chase was a cool guy. Let's be honest. Like, Chase is the boy. You know, it's like he would walk around with his head up. He was always, you know, saying hi to teachers, always making people laugh. And a big thing for me is that the first couple of days that I went there, he was kind to me. And he would tell me, like, hey, you know, sit by us or walk with us. And that really, like, helped so much. Like the first time he said, like, you know, hey, come with us, it was like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? Like I stepped out of my little door and I almost, you know, I feel like I could be myself.
Exactly.
And just because he was kind, just because he said you can walk with us, just because he smiled at me or said hi or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, being kind can help so much.
Yeah. That's a fantastic point, because think about, you know, how comfortable you are with your friends, how much more yourself you are with your friends.
Yeah.
Well, why is that? Because you trust them, because they're nice, because they're understanding of you, right? So if we're nice and we make people feel more secure, they're going to be more likely to be themselves.
1,000,000%. No, and honestly, thanks, Chase. Honestly, for always being a nice guy. Like, it really means a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, Chase is a nice guy. Chase is the boy. 1,000,000%. That means a lot. And actually, you were talking about like friends and whatnot. I actually have another question personally. Might as well get some help. You know what I'm saying? What tips do you have with toxic relationships, toxic friendships? Because at the end of the day,
it's like
there is times where especially for people who are very empathetic, where they're in a relationship that's hurting them, and they want to be a little bit, I guess, I don't want to say too nice, but, they don't want to cut them off because they're saying, no, I don't want to be mean, or like, no, like, I'm here to help them. But, they're being affected by that relationship. Like, what tips do you have for people in toxic relationships and things like that?
Exactly. Boundaries.
Yeah.
When it starts to negatively impact you, you have to cut the tie because you can only react to what a person does. You can't control what they do.
Yeah.
Right? You can only control yourself. And so just knowing when to say no. And it's very difficult, especially if you're an empath, especially if you're somebody who, makes excuses. They're just going through a hard time, or they won't have anybody if they don't have me. Okay, well, maybe if they don't have anybody, they'll start to self-reflect and wonder why. So having very strong interpersonal boundaries can be helpful, and it's hard, right? It's hard to cut somebody off, I always love the term psychic vampire, which is basically somebody who sucks all your emotion and willpower. Right. Like you're exhausted after talking to them because they've just kind of sucked everything out of you. Yeah. So you really need to put up firm walls with those. No, types of
1,000,000%, and I think that's super important that you share that, because we've been talking about being kind, but I think we have to realize that being nice and being kind doesn't mean letting people step all over you.
Correct.
I mean, I was gonna try to look up a Bible verse that talks about that, but like internet's not working. I mean, not to like bring it to religion, but just because there's a verse that my dad always tells to me, because my dad, super nice guy. You guys know my dad. No, but my dad, though, super nice guy, absolutely kind person, but he doesn't let people step on him. And he always reminds me that there's a verse that he always tells me that you have to be like as humble and elegant as a dove, but as astute, I think that's the word is, dove. As a dove. Yeah, I'm so sorry. That's the podcast right there. No, but you have to be like as humble and sensitive as a dove, and kind as a dove, because they're elegant and whatnot, but you have to be as firm as a snake, like just not letting people step all over you. And that's important, super important.
Definitely. And I think sometimes there's a fear behind that, right? Because especially people who tend to be overly kind, overly nice, and get taken advantage of, there's this fear that if they put their foot down, if they don't let themselves, kind of just always be the nice person, that no one's going to like them.
Oh, wow.
So there's a built-in fear there that, well, if I stop being nice,
like this isn't who people think I am, and then they're going to be
okay. Exactly. But again, if it's hurting you, you need to put that boundary in place, because it's not helping anybody for you to be squished.
1,000,000% for being that welcoming mat for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
100%.
Do you do a lot of like saving relationships? Like when couples come and see you, I guess for couple therapy, is it like, have you seen couples where it's like you can tell that they've been like, oh my God, like fine, let's go see a therapist and see if we can, you know what I mean? Like, cause I don't know, I feel like that might be like kind of a stigma, is like going to see a couple therapist is almost like
the last resort.
Like, all right, like come on, like we got to make this work or something like that.
I've been fortunate where I've seen a lot of couples that, I guess, catch it on the front side. I want to say they're not at that desperate last ditch effort point. They're
That's
like,
good,
something's not working here and we want to invest in this. And so we just, 9 times out of 10, it comes down to communication.
No, 1,000,000%. And that's important for all couples listening. And don't be afraid, obviously, to seek help and seek a therapist, because I know there's a saying that a lot of people have a kid to try to save a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't have a kid. Go see a therapist. A lot cheaper, a lot easier, and you're not going to regret having that kid. 20 years down the line, you
don't have to make an 18-year commitment to your therapist.
Exactly.
Right.
100%.
Shoot, what was I going to say, man? Oh, I'm mad at myself. I had a good little, like, not a quote, but
little saying. Well, do you have any tips on being sharper on the mind? Like any mental things you can do? Because like you said.
Oh, I got it. So you talked earlier about how people, when they're in the crisis mode, they're dealing with a lot, so they don't soak up kind of what you're offering, the tools you're bringing to the table. So like you said, when couples see you, they're almost more, it's healthier to see you when it's in the healthier side or healthier state, in order to have those tools on your tool belt to deal with, later discrepancies. Okay.
Correct.
Cool.
No, that's perfect. 1,000,000%. Yeah. You got to seek help, because, it can save you a lot of problems, save you a lot of problems just so you can help.
It's true.
All right, we're at an hour right now. Is this a
okay.
good time to? Do you have any other things you want to ask her? Any other things you want to bring up? Just because I don't want to keep it for too long. Don't want to take her time or anything.
No, you guys are good.
I mean, I don't. I think we've covered a lot, and I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing, I guess one almost like kind of like a conclusion, like kind of moving in that direction.
Okay.
So our a lot of our listeners, our peers, are obviously our age. 17, 18, seniors in high school. Kind of just starting adulthood, I guess, which poses a whole new landscape of problems and opportunities for grief to set in. So I guess what would you tell kind of kids our age who are transitioning into adulthood as not ground rules, but just any type of advice, I guess?
So one thing that I like to say is be confident in your goals, but be flexible in your path.
Okay.
Because
I've never heard that before. That's
I
actually,
never.
I like
I'm gonna write that down actually.
I think that especially at that age, you have all these goals and but you only see that one way to get there. And then when you hit that first stumbling block, you kind of fall apart a little bit because you're like, oh, this is not how this is supposed to go. I didn't want it to look like this. Well, it's not always going to work out that way. So, just be flexible. Yeah, you may get there, but it may not be at the speed that you initially intended, or it may not look the way you wanted it to. But just to be flexible and realize that just because something didn't work out doesn't mean that it's never going to work out.
Oh no, 1,000,000%. Yeah, just realizing that life isn't a straight road. You know what I'm saying? It never
Exactly.
is. It's never gonna be, and that can harm the mind a lot too. When you try to make everything a straight road. You know what I'm saying? Like for me personally, that's something that I try to do sometimes. Try to make everything a straight road. When something goes wrong, I'm like, I start freaking out, but then I have to take a breather. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. Let's learn from this and let's keep moving, keep persevering.
And I was thinking about that when you were talking earlier about procrastinating and putting off starting the podcast and things.
Yeah.
People sometimes think that procrastinators has a negative stigma, but I actually found that most procrastinators are perfectionists, and the reason that they don't want to start is because they don't want it to not be perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. I'm a perfectionist. Wait, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm perfect? No, I'm playing. Does that mean I'm perfect? No, I'm playing.
I do understand that, because I feel like I've definitely procrastinated sometimes, and it's not because, I don't know. It's just like almost like you're scared to do it wrong, I guess.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
A big thing in my life for so many years, the fear of failure, the fear of change.
Yes.
That personally, I mean, coming into high school, we've said in the past podcast, like I wouldn't want to try out for sports. I wouldn't even want to get involved in clubs because I was afraid I was going to do something wrong or just afraid of that failure. And thank God I've been working past getting over that. I mean, but man, that's plaguing. That is horrible. It just filled me with a bunch of regrets. You know what I'm saying? So gotta get rid of that.
Yeah, I listened to that episode. I thought you guys made some really good points.
No way. That's what's up. Wait, shoot. What episode was that?
It was the first episode.
The first episode? Oh,
yeah. I really liked your thought as far as, to have no regrets, but don't use that as an excuse to do stupid stuff.
Oh, no, 1,000,000%. YOLO? No, don't YOLO. All right. Think about it. All right. Consult with your friends. Don't just YOLO it. You know what I'm saying? No, so be smart. Oh, thank you. I'm very happy to hear that you enjoyed the episode. Means a lot,
That's what's up.
That's sick. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground. I think I've asked everything I want to ask.
Sure.
Chase, like you said, you had that great concluding point of just, tips to the teenagers listening on how they can approach their life transitions. And you work with people who deal with life transition. That was one of your specialties. So that's great. So, I mean, I guess it's a great place to end the podcast then, right? Maybe?
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Perfect.
Before we end, maybe you could say your name, your number, if anybody wants to reach out to you for help, because a lot of teenagers listening and
Yep,
things
for
like
sure.
that.
So again, my name is Amanda Fellerer, and I'm an MS LPCIT. The best way to probably get a hold of me is you can look me up on Psychology Today, and then you can contact through that webpage as far as email or phone number. I'm really happy that you can do email because I know that for some people making phone calls is incredibly nerve-wracking.
Oh, yeah, 1,000,000%. Online ordering, amazing. Thank God. Sure, yeah, email's amazing, godly.
Yep, so that's the best way to get a hold of me, and Yep. And I also do, because I believe that the therapist-client relationship, again, is very important. So if, you're thinking about coming to see me, I do this thing. It's called a therapy shop.
Mm-hmm.
It's 20 minutes, no therapy is done, but it's like a meet and greet. So,
to build that base layer of
the client can see who I am, can ask
Cool.
me any questions. And then if they're comfortable, we can start a therapeutic relationship, but it kind of, takes away kind of that fear of, gosh, I hope we're going to mesh, and I'm going to commit to this. And then what
like
if
I
it
hope
doesn't
this
work
is gonna
out?
go well or something like that.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
exactly.
I like how you said that a relationship, it's not a business. You know what I'm saying? Like, healthcare and things like that. People have made it a business, but you're helping people and you want to make it a relationship. So that's beautiful. Absolutely amazing. And ladies and gentlemen, please reach out to Amanda if you need help or anything, right? Let's break that stigma over reaching out for help. It's okay to reach out for help. And like you said, we're all going to need that help a point in our lives. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to this episode.
Thank you very much.
Stuck in
What
Adolescence.
episode is this?
It's going to be episode number 4.
Episode number 4. All right.
It was a big one because we had our first guest on. Once again, Amanda, thank you
very
so much.
Thank you very much.
Truly is a dream come true. I'm going to go home and I'm going to lay in bed. I'm going to be like, I did it. Let's go. Thanks to Amanda sending back that email. I did it. Honestly. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for listening. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Yep. Have a great day. If you're listening today, have a great rest of your day. And like you said, don't be afraid to reach out, to be confident, and, be there to offer help to other people who need it. If you notice that, maybe they do need a little nice thing, like we talked about, just something small. So
100%. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next time.
Adios.
Deuces. Peace.